Okay.
Hey, so we've been having some fun technical issues in trying to get our live stream going here with Carly VanEvery. Um, Hopefully, she's gonna show up here. um, yeah, we're still trying to figure this out. How do you add people to, um, yeah, to a conversation here? We've talked a lot in person and over the phone, but we haven't yet, um, managed to do this yet. Oh, now it's got her here. She says here, it's adding her.
Hi!
Now she's connected, and we've got it. Hey.
Yay! Oh, this was such a good experience because now I know how to do it. See? Just
Yeah,
live and learn.
yeah.
I'm going to turn
It's
my
okay. It only
volume
took
up.
us
Thank
like
you
what,
so.
15 minutes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it's
Good. It
all
was
it's all good.
a
Yeah.
good 15-minute experience. Thank you. Yes.
Right.
So we reversed the process a little bit. What happened is that I tried to go live first and it was just, it just was. So I had to call up Krow, say, hey, something's happening on my end. Are you able to start it up? And maybe I can try joining this way. And here we are. Thank
We did
you.
it. Yay. We
Thank you,
figured out
Krow.
Facebook.
Yes. Yes. We mastered
Yeah, so
Facebook.
so
So
Carly has
yeah, thank you
started
for
a Facebook group.
this Facebook group is called For Our Earth, and this came out of a desire, a vision, a dream of, you know, where we are as human beings on this planet, where we could be going, which might be scary for some people, but also the
Hmm.
opportunities of where else we could be going if we really align to different visions and really kind of create this reality while being here, right? So I'm really passionate, about this planet. I'm really passionate about genuine and authentic human connection. I'm really passionate about spirituality and just really, really, if I'm speaking honestly, what just comes through me and to me, like my soul is it's harmony. It's harmony for people, it's peace for people, like all of humanity, but it's also with how we live with each other on this planet, all of us, the plants, the animals, all of us. Um,
Hmm.
and I believe it's our responsibility to um, live consciously with that in mind, if that makes sense. Yes. So this group for
Yeah.
Our Earth is for all creators alike. Feel free to join. It's on Facebook. And it's just with the intention of, if you're creating, like if you're a construction worker building homes every day, if you're working with like the water plants and stuff, and you're working in the water filtration systems, if you're, there's a lot of people who work with mentality and thought patterns. If you're a coach in that sense, and you really enjoy doing the inner work and
For
you really
building
love learning
homes
about
every day, if
emotions,
you're
I don't know, I'm hearing an echo, sorry, but it's really for
I removed it.
anybody that's on this planet that wants to. What's that?
I removed the echo.
Oh, thank you. It's for anybody that just wants to really create a future so that we can all live harmoniously and we can all add value back into this earth, and that we're honestly able to live here for the next 400, 500, 600 years. Shift
Hmm.
certain things.
And the way we're going right now, I mean, this has been my life's work. I've been an organic farmer
Mhm.
and been involved in different ways of education, different ways of feeding people. different ways of thinking about life. This is my life's work, really. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been scary, you know, witnessing how quickly we were heading to a place where there wasn't return. You know, we weren't going to be able to sustain humanity on this planet. And I know a lot of people are really upset with what's going on right now with the virus, but that's a product of how we're living and how unsustainable we are, really. Our relationship with the animals. That's how virus steps in.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of conversations about that on our private members website, on being human, which is basically a website about what you're talking about. How do we get together?
It's a
How do we
wonderful
learn? How do we
website,
grow?
guys.
It's fun. But there's a, you know, I really want to have these conversations because we were heading in a direction. It was not good, and I feel like there's been a pause that has gotten enough people to stop and rethink. Where are we going? What are we doing? I've been talking to local farmers who are telling me, had we known this was happening, we would have like planted way more. We would have, you know, brought more chickens in and done more this and that because, you know, they everyone's starting
Mhm.
to ask for how do I find things locally? How do I become more sustainable? So I feel like as hard as it's been for all of us, it has started a little bit of a turnaround that I've been waiting for. I mean, I'm going to be 62 on on the equinox, and you know,
Oh
finally
wow!
we're
Happy
in a place.
early
Yeah,
birthday.
that stuff started to happen, and that excites me. People are starting to have conversations about
Yeah.
systemic racism, about colonization. Yeah, I mean, people have been having these conversations all my lifetime anyway. But what
Hmm.
I mean when I say people are having these conversations is it's hitting the urban mainstream.
Yes. Yes, and that's what we all want. Um, by the way, just for, people that tune in from like my audience perspective as well, do you want to give a little introduction on who you are, what you do, what you're passionate about?
And then
Leave
you'll
it to
have to do
you.
the same for people that are on here who know me, because
We'll just get the gears
yeah,
going. Yeah,
I've
I'll
had
let
a
you go
very
first.
odd life. I've had a very odd life in terms that it's just not mainstream, right? So I was
Yeah,
raised in
but thank you because
northern
it paves the way for people like me, so thank you. Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, I was raised in Northern Ontario on an island, so my life has been pretty earth-based, more than
Mhm.
people, I have to say, right? And I spent some time living in cities, but for the last 30 years, I've been living on an organic farm uh,
Mhm.
in a forest. And now I live here
Mhm.
alone. My partner crossed over a couple of years ago. So I live in this absolute paradise where I have the opportunity to connect with the earth in a very physical and tangible way. Um,
Mhm.
you know, this farm produces a lot of food, a lot of vegetables, but most of it has. I've worked hard to assist it in rewilding from the many
Mhm.
years of farming it had before I came here 30 years ago. So it's
Mhm.
now much more of a forest than when I came. Um, my work that I'm passionate about is food sustainability, community, connecting people together. And I come from a long line of mediums in my family. My grandmother was a medium, and um, a lot of my ancestors, most of my ancestors came over here from Europe that I know about, and brought with them a lot of their knowledge and understanding, which, you know, the Romans had pretty much wiped out. So I've spent a lot of time trying to reconnect with my ancient ancestors and bring
Mhm.
forward the traditions and the knowledge and the understanding um, that were taken when Rome colonized that area of Europe. So I work
Mm-hmm.
professionally as a medium, mystic, I guess, doing spiritual counseling work with people. And I've been doing that for my entire adult life. So I've been here a long time doing this work. But it all really comes from being able to be grounded with the earth. That is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's such a mythology that's been taught to so many cultures that we're here learning to get out of earth, that the idea of earth is dirty, it's bad, it's wrong, and we're
Oh
supposed to
yeah.
lighten up and move out of the denseness of physicality and into the great white
Wow.
light of spirit. And frankly, to me, that sounds really racist, I gotta say. And I've had issues with that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that, um, I don't know, being spiritual is somehow something to strive for, and being earthy is something that we want to move. Abrahamic religions teach that, and a lot of religions teach that. And I've gone in the opposite direction. I've been about, how do I connect deeper with the
Mm-hmm.
earth? How do I become part of the forest? How do I network with the actual trees around me? You know, how do I make this deep
Mm-hmm.
connection? And having done that for so many years on the piece of land that I'm lucky to have caretaker responsibility for, I feel like I am just part of this land. I can feel stuff that goes on,
Yeah.
knowing when the moths are coming in that might be, we have a lot of introduced species that are troublesome, you know. So, and I think that's an art that many people are wanting to return to, is how do we reconnect with this planet? Because we're here in physical incarnation. If you want to be all
Mm-hmm.
spiritual and connected there, well, that's easy to do when you don't have a body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for
So,
bringing that point up too. I
mm-hmm.
think that's very, very important. And I just like having conversations with you because I feel like it's just like a different perspective. And I'm always like, you know, thinking
Mm-hmm.
deeper and more consciously about like my own beliefs and like how I resonate with certain aspects, right? But I like how you said it's about being connected to this planet. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's cool because for me, how I resonate and how I relate to that more naturally is, I had somebody ask me recently like about spirituality and like wanting certain things and having certain desires, and I'm like, it's not separate. It's all unified for me. So, and I feel like it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with the earth. It's like it's all unified. It's like I can't really separate and say like, oh, it's like just like as you were saying, like it's just love and light. It's just like the white light. It's just about like being high vibrational. And then it's like, and then there's this separate part of being grounded. It's all cohesive.
It
So
is. It's
thank
an
you for saying that. I
ecosystem
feel
here
like,
on this planet. It's not a hierarchy on this planet.
yeah.
It's an ecosystem. Hierarchy is
Mhm.
a philosophical invention of some humans, not all, but some humans. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really interesting. I feel like we could dive into that too a little bit. The
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy and
Yeah.
the equality. Yeah,
The book that we brought
I
through,
feel.
I work with a group who are in spirit that I call Council of Elders. Other
Mhm.
people have other names for them. Um, and they wrote a book, or they channeled through a book that we just translated, and not translated, really transcribed is more like it.
Mhm.
And that's really what it's about. And he talks about the pyramid reality that humanity has kind of imposed on the earth, and the circle
Mhm.
reality of how earth actually is. And so he talks about different civilizations, different communities on the planet who live in circle reality versus those that live in the pyramid reality with one, supreme being on top, and all
Mhm.
the low lifers supporting it. And I hate to say it, but our society is a total pyramid society, you know? Because
150%.
hmm yeah.
Yeah.
So now about
Um,
you.
about me. Well, my name is Carly VanEvery. I came incarnate to this place in this space at this time, and I, I don't know, like I was saying earlier, I'm just really passionate and just really in this for harmony and for peace for humanity. And what I notice transpire throughout my life just organically for me is I'm really passionate about doing inner work, doing inner work with thought patterns, with energy, with understanding emotions and learning about emotions and learning about different things like how to be self-compassionate and what that really feels like and just allowing myself to learn and to grow more into that. And yeah, just I am a Reiki practitioner. I should say that. And Reiki came to me in a very, very beautiful way. It actually came in through a dream state. And, I like to be connected consciously to spirit too, and my guides and my higher self. So I remember one day I went to go take a nap at 3 in the afternoon, and I was saying to my spirit guides, to the beings of love and light, if there's any messages to deliver to me, please do so in this dream. And what I received out of one of those messages was the word heal. And so I asked in my dream, I asked how, and the reply was Reiki. And I woke up
Mm,
out of that dream and I didn't know what it was at the time. I was in my early 20s, but I did research on it and I really felt this resonance with it. It's energy healing and it's energy balancing within the
mhm,
body through practitioners' hands. And I was like, that's really beautiful. So I ended up taking it on, and it was just a journey, a beautiful journey in itself, and that's what I'm really passionate about. And then just kind of sharing. I like to share knowledge based on what I experienced, and I really believe in energy and emotions and how those two intertwine. And I find it very, very fascinating too. I'm also in a psychology program, Western psychology. So it's all interesting studying about all of it and just kind of
mm,
curving my own path with it. So that's what I do right now. We'll see what happens as everything unwinds, but
mhm. Well,
yeah.
life is about change on Earth. That's what it's all about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think it's really interesting to, kind of tie into like what we were talking about earlier with the pyramid realities
Mhm.
is I remember because I was reading through that book too. I haven't made it the whole way through, but I did remember reading about a certain section about that. And basically, um, yeah, so just to reiterate for anybody watching or anybody seeing this, pyramid realities and Krow, like, feel free to jump in on this too, because I feel like you've got some good knowledge on this too. But from my
I hope
understanding, it
so
is.
after all these decades.
Oh, yeah. These lifetimes. No. But
Mhm.
it's basically it's an energy pattern. This is how I see it. It's a pattern of energy that manifests physically onto this earth plane. Um,
Mhm.
where we see it is everywhere when you break it down, but we
Oh
see
yeah.
it commonly as in like the corporate world and in the job world, you start off at like a certain base and then you try to like rank up, rank up, rank up. And then when you get to the top of the pyramid, you're a CEO, you worked hard, you did like a lot of work, you finally got there after like 30 something years, and now you're there. Now you have the title and now you have the ability to, I don't know, but
Yeah.
um,
What, right?
it's yeah, I don't know. It's like I feel like
Mhm.
my body's not even really resonating with this right now, which is probably why I can't go too deep into this
Mhm.
particular area, which is okay. Um,
Mhm. Well, the
but
higher you want the
it's
pyramid to
interesting.
go, the broader the base you need. Therefore, the more people you need to be in service
Mhm.
to that reality. and hence, outsourcing to communities that don't have the money to say no. I won't work for this, or I won't do that.
Yeah.
It's a slavery
Yeah.
mentality, the whole thing. And then there's the circle communities of, farmers markets and people buying locally and going to secondhand stores instead of
Mhm.
paying for sweatshops and figuring out another way. And I'm wondering
Mhm.
if maybe what might come out of this long series of isolation that so many people are having to go through is that we're going to start looking at what's actually necessary. What do we really need? How much of the so-called
Mhm.
work people do in the world doesn't matter. It's not needed. Most of the stuff people have in their
Yeah.
house is not needed. It's silly. And can we come to a place that people can have gainful employment without feeling like they have to
Mhm.
be like on a treadmill working like 60 hours a
Yeah.
week just to make ends meet, so that somebody else who's like higher
Yeah.
up on the pyramid can have more stuff? Like, where's the sanity in that?
Mhm.
I feel like the whole thing needs an overhaul, and maybe that's what we're doing. Actually, I
Mhm.
believe that's what we're doing. We're doing an overhaul. I call it building a new ship.
Building a new ship. I like it. A new fun ship. A ship that feels
Mm.
good. A ship that's harmonious,
Yeah,
respectful.
I read a lot of blogs too,
Mhm.
and I wrote, it of course came from something the council said, this idea of this
Mhm.
big hulking cruise ship that's rusting out, and it's got like the layers. It's got the people at the bottom that are shoveling the coal, and then the people that are like doing all the cleaning, and then the people that are doing all this, all the way up to the very top where you've got people walking around with their champagne glasses, in their fancy gowns.
Yes.
And that's the image. And the musicians are like, oh, one day I want to do this. And the people working, one day I want to be the ones on top. And this whole idea that you're
Mhm.
cycling through your lifetimes to get to be the person on top with the champagne glass. Like,
Mhm.
and it's sinking. It's a completely
Mhm.
unsustainable reality. Like, it's never worked for everybody. It's only worked for the
Mhm.
people with the champagne glasses, really. So this idea
Mhm.
of letting it sink, just let it go, right? And let's build a different one.
Yeah.
We don't have to argue. We don't have to fight
Yeah.
about it. It's just like, if that's the reality you want to stay in, be aware that it's sinking. And if you don't
Yeah.
like that reality, then get on board and let's build something different. And I know somebody
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, this is wrong or that's wrong," but I gotta say, in the course of my lifetime, um, like, I
Mhm.
remember having to start a food co-op with friends so that we could get clean food. Well, now I can get organic food in every grocery store. So we are changing,
Mhm.
and trying to find a
Yes.
natural, or even homeopathic products, or anybody who's
Mhm.
going to be working with, non-chemical um, healing was really difficult before, and now it's easy.
Mhm.
Like, it's much more available.
Beautiful.
It is, and people forget that.
Yeah.
There's this idea of, like, well, what about our education? Well, I homeschooled my kids, so did a lot of people, and
Mhm.
we did it,
I think,
unschooling, and you know,
yeah.
like,
You
like,
did unschooling? Is that how you phrased it?
yeah, it's unschooling. It's
What is
different than
unschooling?
um,
I'm curious. I feel like this could
it
be
was.
valuable information right now too.
It is. It really is. So, like, we were running a big organic CSA here. So, how do you teach a 6-year-old about division and multiplication? Well, we have 60 members. We have this many tomatoes. There's 60 baskets out. How many tomatoes in each basket? That's division. That's multiplication, right?
Wow. And
Cooking
that's
is
connection to
learning.
the earth.
Yeah, and cooking is fractions. And do you want to learn botany? Well, we're planting the seeds. What's going to
Mhm.
happen? What does it mean when it's at the first leaf? What happens here? It's being part of everyday life and learning through life itself, but structuring that time. So if you're being a teacher, a parent teacher, then you're
Mhm.
structuring that time to be a learning environment. You want to
Right.
learn history? Let's go to a museum, right? If you
Mhm.
want to understand different cultures, let's go visit a family who's from a culture that you don't know about. Ask them questions.
Mhm.
Have them teach you how to
That's
cook a
beautiful.
food that you've never tried before. So it's making
Yeah.
life itself, every moment of life itself, part of an ongoing education system, you know? So my oldest started in grade 9. Um, she just finished, I think, her second university degree. Took a break to have a
Wow.
bunch of kids, and there's 3 kids. Um, I have one daughter who
Yeah.
never went to school. Um, she's fine. She's started numerous
What is
companies of her own, and I beg your pardon?
and what did she study in university, if you don't mind my
My
asking?
oldest,
Mm.
psychology, but to do with
Mhm.
infant brain development.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful. Yeah.
and then my third daughter went she started in grade 7, and she went to college
Mhm.
and got hotel administration and was snapped up. Because the thing is, all my daughters notice this, because they grew up having to think for themselves, not being spoon fed stuff, having to learn for themselves and take
Mhm.
responsibility for themselves in real life. Every employer,
Mhm.
it just, is like, oh my God, how much can I pay you to keep you here? And that's sad.
Different.
That's sad that they're considered excellent when they really should be
Yeah.
average. Right. And my youngest, she started
Yeah.
earlier because she was going to, she's like, if you don't let me go to school, she needs a karate instructor. So she started in grade 4, right? And she now
Yeah.
works for a big think tank in England. She lives in England and works for a big think tank
Wow.
there, which is her life's work. So
Yeah.
they all grew up to think in terms of how can we support our community? How can we live more
Mhm.
sustainably? And it wasn't just those kids. I really have a pile of adopted kids too. And I
I
think
believe
everybody's
it.
got to have, yeah, well, not adopted, but yeah, right. There was always lots of
Yeah.
kids here. So I feel like that was community. That was creating community and, helping people grow up in a sustainable environment where they can see what's
Mhm.
possible. Yes, you can make your own cheese. Yeah, you can, plant beans and dry them, and you can really be completely self-sustainable if you learn how. So they all know how to
Mhm.
use power tools and how to put up drywall and, change the oil
Yeah.
in a
That's
car, all the things that
that's
we need to learn how to do again. So, the
yeah,
whole
it's
pyramid
good
reality
stuff.
where
I
kids,
try to learn that too. I was just learning with my dad the other day because he's just awesome at everything cars,
I know.
and it
Yeah,
just
I
I
love
don't
your
know.
dad. He's great.
He's a good guy. Thank you.
He is a good
I'll share
guy.
this with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And he grows food
so he
too.
taught me like recently. Yeah, he does. He has a really, really abundant garden.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta learn that one day
Mm-hmm.
from him too. But just learning, just being open and willing to learn about like anything and everything, right? And I think just really, I don't know, like the feeling of like when you learn something and when you get to apply it, like after
Mm-hmm.
I helped him change a wheel bearing on my own car. I was like, this is nice because I have a feeling of satisfaction of like, oh, I did that. I
Yeah.
did that and I am a woman. and and it just, it's more bonding time, but it's also like there's so many different factors that you can pull at it. It's more bonding time, it's
Yeah.
self satisfying knowing that you did it. And I felt more connected to my own car, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like I was like, wow, I'm taking care of you and like wow, like I'm responsible and it's just more
Mm-hmm.
connection to
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It was
Yeah,
just a really
and that feeling of I'm going to be okay. I know how to handle this.
mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not dependent,
It's a really
and it's frightening for people who were raised only urban, who only know you one small reality. It's frightening because what do you
mhm.
do? How do you support yourselves? How do you sustain yourself? You are totally dependent on a system in place to look after you if you don't know how to do things for
Mhm.
yourself. And that
Mhm.
must be a frightening feeling for people. A sense of anxiety,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't survive. If I don't have the grocery store down the street, I wouldn't even know where to begin, is a feeling that I see for a lot of
Mhm.
people. If something breaks in my
Mhm.
house, I don't know how to fix it. So yay, YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what they say, right? They say that some people are saying like the internet is like our connection to each other. If we look at the internet as human beings, humanity, we're all
Hmm.
connected and messages can get carried,
Yeah.
thought can get
And you can
carried
find
fast.
out how to do stuff on YouTube because somebody who knows how to do it
Mhm.
takes the time to record it and put it up there and say, this is how you can, you know, fix your broken dryer. This is how you can get your lawnmower started. You know, this is how you should
Mhm.
cure potatoes before storing them. There's anything you want
I
to
should
know.
check that out. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
Um,
Because people
yeah,
don't
it's
have their
really.
communities, they don't have their elders to go to.
Mhm.
I'm moving into my
Mhm.
elder years now, and really, that was one of the things that my work partner Wendy Murdoch and I talked about as we move into our elder
Mhm.
years, is like we need to try to be there for the younger women and men. We need to try to hold these
Mhm.
connections, so that we can be available with our what we've learned if they ask.
Mhm.
But nobody asks, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
mhm,
it's really interesting that you brought that up too, because this is kind of like coming into my mind a few times. But um, yeah, it's probably shifting. I'm gonna put like my faith in the belief that it is shifting. People thinking for themselves and really using discernment. I find that to be a very interesting topic.
mhm,
And I'm just appreciative. I'm appreciative that I was able to have people to go to and talk about in my own personal life when
mhm,
certain things came up, like when I started seeing spirit, when I started experiencing energy, and I had different thought patterns that would be different considered to the mainstream, right? Growing up as a
mhm,
little girl. And so I feel like it kind of set me up perfectly or set me up nicely in this spot where I could kind of see the different patterns that were going on in the mainstream world and in like educational systems and stuff, like going through all of that, right? Because
mhm,
I went to uh, I went to elementary school, I went to high school in like a city. I ended up going to a college in Ottawa, and I'm in university right now in
mhm.
Toronto. And so I was able to see that, but I was able to kind of see it from a distance and say, like, oh, like, I'm going to kind of keep quiet to myself because I feel like I know differently and it feels good for me
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
kind of witness what's happening. And then, there's like those little moments, especially going through like the psychology program that I've been going through in the last 3 years. There's those little moments where when the energy feels right and aligned, or when I get like, I call it like poked, when I get poked by my guides or my higher self, like,
Yeah.
if you want to share this, those moments that kind of offer different opinions or offer different ways or maybe challenge different
Mhm,
beliefs and stuff, right? And I don't know, it like the times that I remember doing that where I was able to speak about, oh, but what if it isn't like this? Like, what if there is a different way of like living and being? And like, what if we can do da 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 da, like ABC and like list it out in like a lecture
mhm,
and it
mhm.
completely shifts the energy. But it's nice because you actually, I'm not saying like all class, like people just sit there and just like do this and don't talk. But from my experience, it was nice because those conversations were genuine conversations with classmates
Right.
and the teacher.
Mhm.
And it was like we
Yeah.
were all creatively thinking about it and like, oh, like, yeah, like I wonder like how it would go if it went like this, or like I wonder like what if we thought about it in this way, or what if we were to do
Mhm.
something different in this way? And I don't know, I just like that dynamic and that energy because
Yeah.
I personally feel
And
that's a good way to create.
were you frightened before, thinking about how do I interject
a different viewpoint here.
100%.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
And that's something I think we need to take apart and undo, that
Mhm.
the academic reality, the political reality, the mainstream reality that most people live in is based
Mhm.
upon a really flawed system, right?
Mhm.
So the
Yeah.
information and the knowledge is seen through that lens, and and if you just think about it as a pyramid lens, this whole idea that there's they call it the food pyramid in nature, like, oh wow, the top predator is top of the pyramid. Like, are you kidding me? Has this
The
virus taught you nothing?
ecosystem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
has this virus taught you nothing? Because the tiniest microbe, can take apart everything. So there's no such thing as that top of the food chain
Yeah.
nonsense, right? Like
It's
it's totally illogical. And yet
Mhm.
this is the system that we're taught under, and especially in psychology,
Mhm.
really that science is based upon the work. And I'm just going to say this bluntly because this is how I really feel, is based
Mhm.
upon the work of these rich white misogynist men in Europe, you know,
Mhm.
who have defined psychology. That this is how humans
Mhm.
work, this is how systems work, this is how, how, and that's not true.
Mhm.
That's true of that particular strata of society, that carried
Mhm.
a lot of really imperialist and absolute pyramid ideas. So here you are trying to bring forward something. Well, what if it isn't like that? What if that's
Something
just what we've
different.
been taught? Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
What if
it's
that's just what we've been taught? It's not taking, so like your North American ancestors, their
Mhm.
experiences, their knowledge and wisdom isn't taken into account. You know,
Mhm.
like I meet people from
Yeah.
Peru who talk about having conversations with the mountains and listening to what the mountains say back. I understand that. Now,
Mhm.
imagine me in your classroom saying, but actually, you can talk to landscape and they have
Yeah.
language and you can listen to it. Oh my God. Like that's, yeah, what would they call that? I think there's a word for it when you anthropomorphize, I think is the word. When
Oh,
you
I
give
don't
human,
know.
yeah,
I think people just look at you
so
and say that person's different.
you would, yeah. But that's part of the fear is if you're trying
Mhm.
to step forward in a group and say, there might be another way of looking at this, you
Mhm.
know, you got to realize that the history of the group that you're talking to who has set this system in place is the group that's responsible for hunting and murdering every mystic that lived in any village all throughout Europe. The witch hunts killed millions of people,
Yeah.
and everywhere that was colonized, the first people that got killed were the wise ones, right? The mystics. So you stepping forward and saying, but no, I do see spirit. I hear spirit in my mind. I do get information. I get guidance. I can tap in
Mhm.
and ask questions and get the answers back. That's considered, like people get locked up for that. And
Oh,
in cultures in the
say that
world,
again. You
it's
were you
you
were
can get
cutting
death
out a little
penalty.
bit.
Uh, what did you miss?
Wait, say that again. That little last part. I heard like stepping in and speaking up and kind of shaking things up a little bit, and then it just cut out a little bit after that.
Yeah, because we are our ancestors. We have our ancestors' stories in them, in ourselves.
Mhm.
So stepping forward and saying, yes, I
Mhm.
listen to spirit and I connect with spirit and I hear the trees speaking and I hear
Mhm.
the stars speaking and I hear my ancestors speaking, is considered insane and illegal in some countries, punishable by
Yeah.
death in Saudi Arabia. So most of
Oh,
us have
wow.
a history where our ancestors were murdered for speaking about such things, for daring to contradict the narrative that's been put into place. And so for me, it's really refreshing when
Mhm.
I'm in other cultures, like, or hearing about or talking to people in other cultures like Vietnamese and many
Mhm.
Asian cultures where it's normal. I remember my daughter saying she was visiting in Vietnam, and she said, "This is the first time in my life when someone said, 'So what does your mother do?' where I could just say what you did, and they'd go, 'Oh yeah,' and that's it, right? Like, oh yeah, well, yeah, our medium lives down the street there too. Oh yeah, that's the one, and it's just normal. It's not, you know, it's just
It's not like this
that's what
big, like,
people do.
whoa.
Or
Yeah.
yeah, she's a fraud. She's nuts. She's like insane. That's certifiable. I don't believe in that crap. Like you just wouldn't dare talk like that in so many
Mm-hmm.
cultures. Imagine going to Peru and saying, "I don't believe your crap," right? Like no one can talk to a mountain. Like you just wouldn't dare do that. And yet,
Yeah.
try to present some of that information in a university psychology class. Whoa,
Yeah.
you're brave, right? But you're
Thank
needed.
you.
You are needed
It's
to do that because these
yeah.
are voices that have been silenced forever, for thousands of years in some areas of the world. In Canada, you could think of it as being silenced probably for maybe 250 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little
Mm-hmm.
longer in the United States, but you head over to Europe and you're looking at like 1500 years of being silenced. It's a long time.
It's a lot. It
So
does a
yay
lot
you.
for the
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
even
it's
in the
just
1930s and 50s, especially women were committed, given shock
mhm,
treatment. You're hearing voices or you're responding to those voices. Well, you're nuts, right?
mhm,
So it's
mhm.
brave of you to step forward. And yet, what it does is it's opening up that availability for others to say, yeah, I have that experience too, and I'm too scared to say anything about it.
That that right there. And I feel like
Mm-mm.
just about human connection and about sharing stories and holding conversations like this, like just real genuine conversations where it's just like I'm gonna be open, I'm gonna be willing, I'm gonna hold space for this and just see,
Mm-hmm.
just allow,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And speak from the
Yeah.
heart, speak from the soul, speak from your own life experience, right? Beautiful things happen
Mm-hmm.
from that. Um, After that
Yeah.
class, I had like different people come up and say like, "Wow, thank you for saying that." Actually, I remember like I
Mm-hmm.
had somebody come up and say like I can't remember like the exact phrasing, but it was something along the lines of, "Are you indigenous or are you Native American?" And I said, "Yes." Or I don't know, I might have like mentioned it in the class lecture now that I think about it because we were talking about cultures and
Mm-hmm.
patterns and just ways of being and living. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody came up to me after the class. I hadn't spoken to this person ever. And they said, I've never seen a Native American so positive. And I was just like, on so many levels. I was like, oh man, we got some work to do
Oh,
here.
yeah. Well, the thing is that that's the whole thing that when you've got a stereotype that in your mind, you view everything from that. That's the viewpoint you have.
Yeah,
That's the glasses you've put on. And so that's all you see. Oh, man.
it's so true. It's the
Yeah.
belief systems, it's the conditioning. It's the conditioning that we've been born into, but it's
Conditioning.
that bravery of
Hmm.
being able to step
Yeah.
back and say, "Hey, how does this really feel for me?" Because I know that every single one of us has the ability to do that. I want to say I know. I want to put my faith in that. I believe that. I know
Hmm.
that
Hmm. Hmm.
everybody deep
Yep.
within knows that feeling of like, how does this feel? Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's not. Well, it is definitely outside of mainstream for sure. And it's so far outside
Mhm.
of mainstream that it seems foreign or not real, or how could that possibly be? I don't know. Have you ever seen a
Mhm.
TV show or a movie that depicts First Nations people as brilliant, articulate, warm, caring individuals, or that doesn't show psychics and mystics as frauds?
Mhm.
Like those are the choices in mainstream, right?
Yeah,
That's the narrative.
a lot of
And so
different
like
patterns.
Yeah. Or witches are evil. It's like, yeah, witches are evil. The church killed them all. Yay. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
My ancestresses
Yeah.
were witches. I definitely, that would be the word that was given to someone who does work like me. And it's,
Mm.
yeah, we've just made a huge
Um,
mockery of all earth-based realities have been mocked and
yeah.
trivialized. And that is starting to change, don't you think?
I would say so. I was just going to ask you, with where you are at this point, right here, right now, how would you open up the conversation or kind of leave a little dab of inspiration, I guess, to redefine the idea of a witch?
I think
Mystic.
what it got put, as back then, among my
Mhm.
ancestors, uh, women were responsible in their communities for birth, for death,
Mhm.
for fertility. Um,
Mhm.
Women that were living in communities that were agricultural, were responsible for inviting in the fertility, for working together with the weather, to like, okay, we've planted,
Mhm.
these crops and now we need rain, and inviting the rain to come, inviting
Mhm.
if they were keeping flocks of animals, that was part of their job, was to bring in the fertility,
Mhm.
to invite that fecundity into the herds of sheep or cattle or whatever they were doing. Women that
Mhm.
worked in fishing villages were responsible for calling in the fish, for being so connected to the earth, to the life itself, to the um, they were the keepers of the springs, the keepers of the wells. That was the role of women,
Mhm.
was to connect in with the landscape around and work together with
Mhm.
life to bring forth sustenance for everyone. Well, you can't do that when you've got armed soldiers around. You can't do that. Like, once
Mhm.
Rome started coming in and conquering everyone, anyone with that kind of power was suspect. You can read all the old stories of ships trying to come in, and the oceans roiling up and sinking the ships and stuff. Well, yeah, you know, those things
But
happen. Yeah. So I'm kind of, I look at
my
that and it's like, so what did you do? You got ahead, and you guys had steel and you had metal and you had the ability to kill people. You had better war
Mhm.
machines. So you just came and killed everybody that could do that. The entire
Mhm.
lineage of the Druid people were slaughtered, wholesale slaughter, because from that lineage came many of the teachers of how to work with earth,
Mhm.
how to become part of and work with earth. And you can't conquer people who are connected to earth, right? You can't. I remember a friend from Hawaii
No.
saying, yeah, they thought they could get all the Hawaiians to just work for them and grow all their stuff in that. But like, why would we? We can go fishing and get food, and everything just grows here. Like, we don't have to work to survive. So then it became, well, now you
Yeah.
got to pay your rent. Now you got to pay this. So you can't enslave
Yeah.
people that are connected to the planet and who know that the earth will look after them. So you have to take
Mhm.
that away from them, you know?
Yeah.
So those were the
Have
witches. They were
to.
the people that were connected to the earth and who were responsible for the communities that they lived
Mhm.
in, responsible for and in communities, I don't just mean people, because the trees, the
Mhm.
landscape, the animals, everything was considered part of that community, and the waters that were in that community. And so the older women, when they weren't in the phase of having big families to raise and look after, had the luxury to be able to offer their services and their wisdom in that capacity of looking after.
Mhm.
And the men too, right? I mean, a lot of men were accused of witchcraft and murdered too. So um,
Yeah.
I feel that throughout my life, I've been reclaiming this. And now, as I enter my elder years and my kids are grown and I'm a grandma, and I have the space in my life to be able to dedicate to what my ancestors were able to thousands of years ago, and rebring bring that back up through myself into expression in the world, and just see where it fits. You know, it's not for
Yeah.
sale.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing all of everything that you do in words and being in all of it.
And and thank you for being like a lovely young woman that is bringing forward new possibilities. You know, same thing. We don't have to sink the old ship. It's sinking itself. We have to build a new one. So every time you're bringing a
Yeah.
new conversation, a new viewpoint into your classroom, every time you're, you know, so
Mhm.
gently, like you're much gentler than I am, you're so gently
Thank you.
offering, like, oh, here's a possibility that we could look at, or like, oh, I don't know, I met people who can do those kinds of things. So, you know, I gotta say,
Mhm.
whenever I have an event or anything going on, doesn't matter what the forecast is, it won't rain.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
And
it's real.
you know,
It's
within your
real.
community, there's a lot of people who know this, right? Like, and yet mainstream
Mhm.
haven't got a clue. And that is sad. That's heartbreaking to me. Hmm.
Mhm. It's going to shift.
It's
It starts now.
shifting. It
Yeah,
is.
it is
Yeah.
shifting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, we
Well,
have a billion
thank
things we
you,
could talk
Krow.
about.
I know, I feel like I could talk with you for like hours and hours, and I feel like we've done this a few times before.
Oh, oh yeah.
But I
Well, I'm real
just,
happy to see so many younger people, you know,
mhm,
just bringing what the gifts that they've brought to the world. And I know the council told
mhm,
us that a lot of the younger people that have been coming in, you know, last 30 years or so are, I call them shipbuilders.
mhm.
They're all people who brought their gifts.
Shipbuilders? Yeah.
Shipbuilders,
Yeah.
building the new ship.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Hmm.
SHIP, as in
Y
Patrick.
yes. Well, they could also be ship
Awesome.
composters too, right?
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you so, having my back in the beginning of the live stream. Really appreciate that. And thank you again for just being you and holding a lovely space of conversation.
Well,
I'm
thank
very,
you.
very
It's lovely
appreciative.
to know you.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
you too. See you.